Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you here with us in the room, our viewing audience via Zoom, good morning to you as well. My name is Humati Mark, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the launch ceremony of the Independent Child Protection Advisory ICPA program funded by the European Union. This aptly coincides today with the celebration of World Children's Day. So let me also wish you a happy World Children's Day. Today marks the day on which the Declaration of the Rights of the Child was adopted in 1959. That is just a little fun fact for you, as well as the Convention of the Rights of the Child in 1989. So it's fitting that we are here today to celebrate the ICPA program coming to fruition. And it is a program being put on by Girls of a Feather, like I mentioned, funded by the European Union. Before we get into what the program is about, I would love to invite to officially welcome you here to provide you welcome remarks, Ms. Diane Francis, who is the ICPA supervisor at Girls of a Feather.
Good morning, everyone. Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey, the head of delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean states, and the OECS. Ms. Becky York, the consultant with Lime Culture. Ms. Chelsea Foster, executive director of Girls of a Feather and the ICPA project manager. Ms. Janie Joseph, Director of the Department of Gender Affairs, our ICPA trainees, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to welcome you to the official launch of the Independent Child Protection Advisor Program, an initiative of Girls of a Feather and a milestone moment for child protection in St. Lucia. Today we gather with a shared purpose to strengthen the way our country responds to children who have experienced abuse and to ensure that no child faces that journey alone. This initiative is designed to ensure that children affected by abuse receive consistent, specialized and timely support. Through dedicated advocacy, case coordination, and independent oversight, the ICPA program seeks to close the gaps that too often leave families feeling overwhelmed or alone at the most difficult moments of their life. We are honored to have built this model using international best practices, drawing from the United Kingdom's long-standing Independent Sexual Violence Advisor Program and enriched through training and guidance through Lime Culture, our state agencies and clinical psychologists. Their partnership has enabled us to adapt a robust, evidence-based system to the realities of St. Lucia. This program is not just a new service, it is a strategic, evidence-based response rooted in best practice and multidisciplinary collaboration. We extend our deepest gratitude to the European Union, whose support has made this initiative possible. Over the next 2 years, the investment will help us build a sustainable framework, one informed by research, strengthened by international standards, and shaped by the everyday realities faced by families across St. Lucia. To all stakeholders present, your commitment is vital. Child protection demands collaboration, compassion, and courage. Your presence today affirms our shared responsibility to safeguard the well-being of every child in this country. And to our ICPA trainees, you are the pioneers of this program. Your dedication represents a new chapter of hope for our children and families who will rely on your advocacy and your voice. As we begin today's program, let us remember that every system we strengthen, every partnership we build, and every strategy we refine ultimately serves one purpose: safeguarding the dignity, healing, and future of our children. On behalf of Girls of a Feather and the ICPA team, thank you for joining us as we launch this important national initiative. I look forward to a meaningful and impactful morning together. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane, for that warm welcome. As Diane mentioned, we do have stakeholders from the program joining us via Zoom, and some of which you will be hearing from, for example, Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey, who's the head of delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean states, and the OECS. We also have Ms. Becky York, who is a Lime Culture consultant, joining us via Zoom as well, and we will also be hearing from her via Zoom. Just to as we continue in our program, just to give you a bit of insight as to one of the reasons why we're here today. In 2024, the European Union put out a call for proposals on human rights and democracy for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. And the proposal put on by Girls of a Feather, they responded with a proposal entitled Community-Based Child Protection Mechanisms, the Establishment of Network Independent Child Protection Advisors, ICPA, and they were successful in receiving this grant. So that is one of the reasons that we're here today. We do want to hear the keynote address, who's coming up next, by Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey. She's the head of the delegation of the European Union to Barbados, Eastern Caribbean states, and the OECS, and they are the entity through which the grant was received. So we want to say welcome to Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey, and we would like you to, of course, you can start your presentation as we welcome you. You could go ahead, Ms. Ramsey.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Ms. Janie Joseph, Director of the Department of Gender Affairs in the Government of St. Lucia, Ms. Chelsea Foster, Executive Director at Girls of a Feather, Ms. Diane Francis, the Independent Child Protection Advisory Supervisor at Girls of a Feather, Ms. Becky York, Head of Consultancy at Lime Culture, Ms. Samira Charles, Youth for Gender Equality Ambassador, and members of the ICPA Steering Committee, representatives of national authorities and civil society, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real honor to be able to participate in the official launch of the network of independent child protection advisors in St. Lucia this morning. Maybe just to introduce myself quickly, I'm recently appointed as the EU head of delegation to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean states, and I've been in the region since September. So I have not yet had the pleasure of visiting St. Lucia. I do hope to present my credentials in early 2026, and then we'll be able to come and visit also Girls of a Feather and look in more detail at the project's implementation and progress, something that I'm really looking forward to. But for today, for the launch, I'd like to really start by also congratulating Girls of a Feather on becoming a successful grantee and recipient of funds from the European Union. There were dozens of applications in the call that was just mentioned. So maybe I can share with you a bit why the EU chose to support this initiative particularly. And I think the key reason there is because the network and the work of the network really puts the rights of the child and the protection of the child at its heart. The pressing need for community-based child protection mechanisms is really not just a statistic, it's a reality for many, many vulnerable children whose future depends, I would say, very much on initiatives such as the one we are launching today. The Community-Based Child Protection Mechanisms Project, which is establishing the network of independent child protection advisors, has, I understand, already made good progress with 4 training modules completed, and the accreditation of the program I understand, has been discussed and agreed with the University of West Indies, paving the way also there for future cooperation, which is an excellent start. So what I'd like to say this morning actually to the school teachers, police officers, members of the judiciary, the public prosecution, officers from relevant ministries and agencies, civil society organizations, communities, youth groups, families, thank you for being here today, because your presence and commitment are crucial, not just for the successful outcome of this project and the network, but because improving the access to support services in St. Lucia, looking at the safety and well-being of children, really hinges on partnership and collaboration among all actors. I'd like to specifically recognize here the support and work by the authorities in St. Lucia. I am aware that there has been important legislative progress, including the Domestic Violence Act and institutional tools such as the Family Court over the last years. And the network of independent child protection advisors will act as an intermediary, an important and critical intermediary between children in need and the relevant public services. and it complements really well this legislative reform process. Supporting children navigating complex legal and social processes what should ultimately contribute to a more robust and responsive child protection framework across the country. As mentioned at the very opening of our gathering, today is World Children's Day. So it's very, very fitting that we can mark the occasion by launching the network, the Independent Child Protection Advisory Network. We can reflect on our shared commitment to uphold and advance international standards by empowering communities and institutions to act decisively in the interest of the child in St. Lucia. I believe the country is paving the way for meaningful change that really honors the spirit and intentions of the 1959 Declaration and 1989 Convention that would look to protect the rights of children everywhere. So today we're not only celebrating World Children's Day, but it's also, I would say, a day of national promise for a brighter and safer future for children in St. Lucia. And I'm really honored to be here with you, and I wish you all the best for your discussions this morning. Thank you.
The European Union to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean and the OECS. And as she really truly mentioned, that when we think of children and the abuse of children, and sometimes in the work that you come across, it comes across on as a statistic on a page, but I know that some of you in the room here today and some of you viewing via Zoom, it really is a reality for you, something that you face every single day. And that is why it is so important that when programs like this are conducted, that it's done well and it's done to international standards. And one of the things that Girls of the Fed has done through this program is to ensure that they do have that international standard being met. So up next, we're going to hear from Becky York, who is a Lime Culture consultant, and to provide you with a little bit of insight into Lime Culture. They're one of the United Kingdom's leading organizations specializing in improving the quality and consistency of support offered to victims and survivors of sexual violence. Over the past decade, they have become internationally recognized for their development in independent sexual violence advisor standards, training, accreditation systems, and national practice guidance. So Girls of a Feather, their independent child protection advisor program, has been shaped in many ways by the principles and the structure established through the model, the independent sexual violence advisor model. And so speaking on the collaboration with Girls of the Feathers ICPA, we have Ms. Becky York joining us. She is the head of consultancy on the project from Lime Culture. So we want to say good morning to you, Ms. Becky York, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Good morning, and it's a great pleasure to be here today. Just to give a little bit of background that's sort of been covered a little bit, Lime Culture has been championing the role of independent sexual advisors since 2011 when we were first formed. We provide training and quality standards for independent sexual violence advisors and children's independent sexual advisors in the UK. We also have an accreditation programme matched to quality standards for ISVA services. We were approached by Miss Chelsea Foster and from Girls of a Feather in September 2024, and our partnership has focused on exploring how the children's independent sexual violence advisor model that we have in the UK and that has been applied in other sectors could be applied to the St. Lucia context. We initially delivered some strategic workshops to understand how it could be adapted, and then the role was rebranded as Independent Child Protection Advisors for the St. Lucia context. Following an agreement in April 2025, we delivered a researched evidence-based needs assessment, which has informed the development of the training, standard operating procedures, and the national ICPA framework that we've helped deliver. As has been mentioned already, Lime Culture has participated in the training of the independent child protection advisors over the last 2 months, I think, we've delivered 4 training modules, which have been 2 days each. They are designed to strengthen the skills, confidence, and professional practice of those ICPAs. And each module has not only built on their knowledge, but directly enhances the quality of support that's provided to those children and young people in the future. Just a little bit on those modules. We've focused on advocacy, sexual violence, and trauma, making sure that those candidates have a deep understanding of trauma, its impact on children and young people, strengthening their advocacy skills so they can speak up confidently on behalf of those children and young people, and ensuring those practitioners have safe, empathetic, and survivor-centred support. We also ensure that they have effective risk and needs assessment and safety planning, making sure they have tools to identify immediate and long-term risks presented to those children, enable them to make decisions around safeguarding and support any crisis responses, and ensure every child or young person receives personalised and practical safety and support planning. As has been mentioned already, this role really is designed to work in a collaborative way. So we have got a whole module focused on that multi-agency practice and ensuring the sustainability of the service, embedding that coordination between agencies, social care, health, education, justice, making sure those candidates understand their safeguarding responsibilities, and ensure that the high quality support that they can offer is sustainable because they're working in that multi-agency contact. The final module that was delivered in partnership with local partners in St Lucia was criminal justice and legal support. This role is vital in ensuring that children, young people and their families understand how the justice system works, how they will be engaged with it, and make sure they're able to safely navigate any police, court and legal processes. Most importantly, it will work with those justice services as well to ensure that all of their interactions with children, young people and their families are always trauma informed. Our team were hugely impressed over the last 2 months with the engagement of the new ICPAs and their supporters within Girls of a Feather. The second element that we delivered were standard operating processes. These are based on models within the UK, but have been adapted by Girls of a Feather for St Lucia. So we've delivered a comprehensive policy and process handbook that has clear referral process to ensure timely access to the ICPA service, really define the roles and functions of the ICPA service so they're confident in them and can explain them to the partners. Operating principles to ensure clear and consistent and ethical practice. As I mentioned before, a clear risk and needs assessment framework so that every ICPA is assessing risk and assessing the support needs of the children and young people they're supporting in the same way. Safeguarding protocols to protect vulnerable children and young people. Really importantly, confidentiality standards to make sure that children and young people and their families who access this service can be assured that that service is there, is listening to them, and is maintaining the highest standards of confidentiality. We have clear client support agreements that will set out right from the start what the role of the ICPA is, how they will work with people, how long they will work with people, and to set those expectations right from the start. We'll also ensure clear supervision policies. This is a really challenging role to work with potentially traumatised children and young people and their families. It's really important that the ICPAs are supported in their role. And we know through our work with Girls of a Feather that they're already putting in place those mechanisms to ensure that the ICPAs and the wider team are supported and able to have emotional resilience within their roles. We've also put together some draft partnership frameworks. Again, collaboration is going to be so important within this role, but making sure there's some formal partnership agreements between organisations in St Lucia to help ICPAs deliver their role. And also, as I mentioned before, this is a role that will be ongoing and continuing to support people, but we've also made clear about how support should be ended and how young people can be transitioned into the rest of their lives. The final element that we've done, and again, this is evidence-based and building on international practice, is a national framework for ICPAs that I think will build on to the role moving forward and take this from an initial project to a full programme to a sustainably embedded practice. So that national framework defines the purpose, scope and guiding principles of the ICPA role. It is aligned with St Lucia's child protection laws, judicial processes and wider international standards. It defines their core functions, ethical duties and professional boundaries for ICPAs within child protection and the criminal justice system. And it builds from the evidence-based needs assessment that we conducted to make sure it's relevant, sustainable and aligned with that national and international good practice. Just finally, on behalf of all of us at Lime Culture, we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to Miss Chelsea Foster, Girls of a Feather, and all of the partners in St. Lucia who are joining today or who have participated in this process. We've been impressed by your passion, dedication, and unwavering commitment, which have been at the centre of this work, and it's been a privilege to stand alongside you throughout this delivery. We know your leadership and drive will continue to inspire, and we're deeply grateful for the trust and collaboration that you have shown to us. Please accept our sincere appreciation and our very best wishes to you in continuing to champion the safety, empowerment and well-being of children and young people across St. Lucia. Thank you.
On behalf of Girls of a Feather, I would like to also thank you for your participation in forming ICPA and your insight into the background as to how that was done as well. Thank you so much for that. Just in case you did not know, Girls of a Feather has been operating in St. Lucia for nearly 11 years now. They will be celebrating 11 years this year. And Girls of a Feather, from establishment, their goal is to support girls in St. Lucia, provide a safe space for girls, and now even further strengthening protection of girls and children on a whole in St. Lucia through the ICPA program. The ICPA program is Girls of a Feather's victim initiative to provide specialized support to child abuse victims and their families. I know we've been talking a lot about the background as to how we got here, but now we're going to get a little bit of insight as to the overview of the program itself. And to provide you with that overview, please help me welcome Chelsea Foster, who's Executive Director and ICPA Project Manager, Girls of a Feather.
Good morning again, everyone. I want to begin by extending special thanks again to the team at Lime Culture, and especially to Becky, who has been instrumental in shaping the development of this program. Although the process has moved very quickly, as you heard, we started last year and we've made a lot of headway since then. It has been deeply meaningful. Learning about the work happening in the UK has reminded us that while our contexts differ, the experiences of survivors, particularly children, are strikingly similar across continents. As we gather here today on World Children's Day and on the eve of the 16 days of activism to end violence against women and girls, I want to highlight why initiatives like the Independent Child Protection Advisor Program are not just timely but essential. Across our child protection system, we continue to see recurring painful gaps, heavy caseloads, limited follow-ups, inconsistent emotional support, and moments where children and caregivers feel unclear or even lost in the process. These challenges are not the result of individual shortcomings, but reflect systemic issues which must be addressed. Research globally confirms that when children lack a consistent support person, their trauma can deepen and cases are more likely to fall through the cracks. Our own data makes this reality impossible to ignore. The Vulnerable Persons Team reported 151 cases of abuse in 2020, 85 of which involved children. In 2024, there were 230 cases reported, and 230 cases and 151 were committed against children. A trend moving in this direction demands a stronger, more coordinated response. Earlier this year, our needs assessment also revealed that only 2 civil society organizations, including Girls of a Feather, are actively providing services to child abuse victims. Both operate without state support, though filling critical gaps of children who would otherwise have nowhere to turn. At the regional level, the Needham's Point Declaration of 2023 and the Survivors' Charter of Rights set a powerful direction for the Caribbean countries. Among its key recommendations, Section 24 calls on all justice sectors and stakeholders to ensure centralized space for victims and survivors of sexual assault. Section 28 emphasizes that youth, gender identity, economic background, and culture must be central considerations in addressing harmful stereotypes within the criminal justice system. These commitments strengthen our collective responsibility and also underscore why the ICPA model is urgently needed. Civil society and community-based organizations play a vital and irreplaceable role in child protection, both in preventing harm and in supporting survivors. These obligations are often the ones communities trust most. These organizations, sorry. They are flexible, responsive, and able to reach groups that government systems sometimes struggle to connect with. Because of this, they often become the frontline support for victims and families who might otherwise be overlooked. We've seen in recent years that when services are designed with survivors, not just for them, care becomes more relevant and more effective. Survivors themselves help shape what support looks like, and this makes the system more humane, more timely, and more accessible. However, we also know that the ability of community organizations to provide high quality support depends heavily, on how they are funded, integrated, and treated within the wider system. When structures or commissioning processes are too rigid, it becomes harder for these organizations to maintain the level of care that victims truly need. There are also times where coordination with government agencies is not as smooth as it should be, but when everyone works together with clarity, shared responsibility, and mutual respect, it creates a sense of ownership and legitimacy across the whole child protection system. This requires investment, time, and the right policy environment to make collaboration work. What this shows is that we need a more integrated and respectful partnership between civil society and formal child protection services, one where organizations are not only supported to provide frontline care, but are also resourced to help strengthen the system itself. When community expertise and government efforts align, children and families receive better protection, clearer guidance, and more consistent support. In St. Lucia, the landscape of service delivery in relation to children's needs makes clear the role that civil society has to play within the justice system, particularly where state capacity is limited or they are unevenly distributed. The survey of at-risk children, and service shortfalls identifies the need for locally based voluntary action, which can in turn integrate global knowledge with cultural and infrastructural contingencies. If civil society is to be further empowered with St. Lucia's child protection system, it will require intentional support for the coordination and multi-agency actors, capacity building around specialists and preventive programming, and mechanisms for valuing community-derived knowledge. The independent child protection advisor model is therefore designed to become the missing connective tissue, a steady, trusted point of support that helps bridge the system in a way that is consistent, transparent, and genuinely supportive. It ensures that children and families are not navigating the process alone and that agencies can work together more effectively with clearer communication. An ICPA is a trained, neutral professional whose role is to guide the child and family through the protection process. They provide emotional support, ensure information flows clearly, and helps the child understand each step, reducing fear, confusion, and re-traumatization. At its core, the ICPA ensures that the child remains centered in every decision and every response. Our research shows that many countries have already embraced similar models of independent victim assistance programs. From the United States to statutory guidance documents in the UK, and even in neighboring countries such as Martinique, where governments provide multi-year support for non-statutory agencies who can still hold government agencies to the obligations set out in policy and law. These programs are recognized internationally as essential components of a modern, trauma-informed child protection system. In this brief overview of the program, I want to highlight the key elements that work together to achieve the goal of an operationalized victim aid service for CSOs in St. Lucia. After 9 intensive workshops over the past 2 months, we now have a trained ICPA team guided by a technical steering committee that will provide oversight over the next 2 years. The team includes 2 supervisors, one focused on quality assurance and the other on case management, and 6 fully trained ICPAs ready to deliver services. The client's data will be recorded and managed by a digital case management hub, and using a standardized assessment framework built around 14 domains, client safety and support requests will be frequently measured throughout the engagement. The pilot will run for 24 months and will provide support to both boys and girls under 18 at any stage of the process, whether post-crisis, during pretrial, or at any other points where guidance and advocacy are needed. Every case will move through a clear, structured process: intake, assessment, development of a personalized case plan, continuous support and advocacy, and finally, case closure. This gives us a child-centered model that is consistent, data-driven, and rooted in trauma-sensitive practice. We've also built in clinical supervision every other month for our advisors and scheduled outreach and sensitization activities across the island at schools and other youth-serving institutions. A major strength and my most exciting part of this project is the Research Foundation. I want to acknowledge Dr. Bipaya Parry, a research fellow and a lecturer at the University of the West Indies, who has taken on this project with extraordinary commitment and has agreed to co-author 2 major pieces of research with me over the next 2 years. Her leadership has pushed us to think bigger about how this model can be scaled, and her support has been invaluable. This research will play a crucial role in guiding national implementation and ensuring that accountability stays at the center of the model. The first study examines the perceptions of the ICPA training. Over the past month, we've conducted a series of workshops with 9 trainers, assessing changes in participants' knowledge, skills, and competencies across key areas, including child protection law and policy and mental health. We will also be exploring the possibility of having the program accredited through the University of the West Indies next year, following the post-training evaluations for our first cohort. The second study will investigate ICPA-supported interventions associated with clients' well-being, victim outcomes, and interagency child protection service efficiency. This will guide us and give us real-time evidence over the next 2 years of whether the model is improving trauma-informed outcomes and overall experience for victims. This research, of course, is not simply an academic exercise. It will feed into a national policy brief, offering recommendations to strengthen standards, integrate the ICPA role into existing frameworks, and build a more accountable, survivor-centered system. Looking further ahead, our plan is to host the first national ICPA conference in 2027. This conference will allow us to share the findings from the pilot, highlight lessons learned, and showcase promising practices from across the region. It will bring together government agencies, civil society groups, youth advocates, practitioners, and international partners, all committed to building stronger, more coordinated protection systems across the Caribbean. Our vision is for a system where children and families have consistent support, where civil society and government work in genuine partnership, and where every intervention is guided by evidence, good practice, and the voices of survivors themselves. I want to close out by extending my heartfelt thanks to the members of our Technical Steering Committee for their guidance and support, Ms. Shahini Gravelis, Intake Counselor at the Family Court in St. Lucia, for her insight into child protection processes, Mr. Levan Solomon, Programs Officer at Childline Trinidad and Tobago, for his expertise in frontline services, Dr. Ramona Biholar, Deputy Dean of Graduate Studies and Research and Senior Lecturer at the Faculty of Law, UWI, for her legal and research guidance, Mr. Peter Moyston, Crown Counsel at the Crown Prosecution Services, for his knowledge of the justice system, and Dr. Sarita Buchanan, Head of the Social Work Training and Research Center, for her invaluable perspective on social work training and practice. Your collective dedication has been central to shaping this program. I also want to sincerely thank again the European Union for recognizing this vision behind this initiative. We, the Child Protection Advisory, look forward to engaging more partners and professionals as we advance this vital and exciting work together. Though this pilot spans 2 years, our vision is long-term, to establish a sustainable community-based mechanism that will continue well beyond the life of this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That was Chelsea Foster, Executive Director and ICPA Project Manager, Girls of a Feather. Chelsea, thank you so much for that comprehensive overview and giving us a little more insight, or a lot more insight into the project. As you may have heard Chelsea mentioned, there are 6 independent child protection advisors, ICPAs, who have been trained across the island. And while their primary base of operations will be the Girls of a Feather headquarters here, each ICPA will also have designated community offices to facilitate meetings and to provide counseling and support to children and their families. So we're really ensuring that this project gets down into the communities where assistance is really needed. To give you a little bit of insight as to the experience of the trainees, we do have testimonials from the ICPA trainees and video highlights from training workshops, so we're inviting you to view those.
I felt proud to be a part of this initiative because one thing I've always said is children and young people are my heartbeat. So being able to work with them and being given that opportunity to make a real difference in their lives, it's something that I look forward to and anticipate being part of.
I anticipate that the role will be very impactful because currently there are lots of lapses in the system and typically victims don't receive the support that they need. So introducing the ICPA role has the potential to really provide more tailored support to make victims feel more empowered and to also direct them to the correct chains of information that they would need.
Thank you so much for that. We do see some of those faces here in the room with us today. Just to let you know, the 2 ICPA trainees that you heard of Andrea Thompson as Stacey Lamentine, they are 2 ICPA trainees featured in the video, but a number of the faces that you saw, including one of the voices, are our stakeholders, or the stakeholders are part of ICPA really making this pilot program a reality. One of the key components of this program is to ensure community engagement in child safeguarding and child protection. And so, speaking of community engagement, speaking of stakeholders, I would like to invite to share some remarks with us the Youth Gender Equality Ambassador for ICPA, Ms. Sumira Charles.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to follow the protocol that has been established. I am deeply honored to be here today for the launch of the Independent Child Protection Advisory Program. I would like to thank everyone who has worked tirelessly to make this moment possible. My name is Sumira Charles, and being a Youth for Gender Equality, or Y4GE ambassador, means a great deal to me. This experience has proven that ambassadorship is more than just a title. It allows me to be a voice for young people, to promote positive change, and to contribute to making our systems more responsive and caring. As a Y4GE ambassador, this experience resonates strongly with my own journey as a young leader. I have always wished to be part of something that did not just talk about change, but actually influenced real systematic changes. The Youth for Gender Equality program enabled me to share my ideas and thoughts with other people who shared my interests and goals. Since joining the program in February, we've had the opportunity to participate in trainings, engage in regional dialogue, and design our own initiatives, which have been incredibly impactful. Now, whenever I see an opportunity to create change, I immediately start thinking of solutions to challenges people may face. Meeting other young leaders who cared about the same issues influenced how I perceive leadership today. It taught me that leadership is not defined by age, but by compassion, bravery, and dedication. Today, as we celebrate World Children's Day, we honor the theme, My Day, My Rights. This theme is significant because it emphasizes, that children are individuals with rights, voices, and ideas. Too often, adults make decisions on behalf of children without taking into account their thoughts or feelings. This theme urges us to do better. It encourages families, schools, communities, and organizations to respect and value children's rights while also listening to them. It motivates us to create environments in which children can feel safe, supported, and heard. My Day, My Rights also reminds us that every child deserves a real childhood, a childhood filled with joy and safety, where they can play freely without fear or silence. For children who have been hurt or abused, this theme becomes a powerful declaration. Children deserve immediate protection, holistic support, and justice. Caring for children is our immediate responsibility. It is the law, and it is our moral obligation. This theme is a strong commitment that a child's fundamental right to safety and a life free from abuse is non-negotiable. In my role as a Y4GE ambassador, I want to use my platform to help young people understand their rights and know where to find help after trauma. Many young survivors feel lost. They often do not know who to talk to, where to go, or what services exist. Some have no idea how the justice system works, while others simply require someone to guide them with kindness and without judgment. I am committed to making information more accessible, whether through youth activities such as community outreach events or social media sensitization campaigns. The ICPA program is important because it brings accountability and specialized support into the child protection system. We need to invest in safe spaces, equitable opportunities, and supportive systems that allow youth to thrive. My goal is to empower our peers not just to survive their trauma, but to heal and grow stronger. To my fellow youth leaders, I encourage you to support this program. Youth leadership is powerful, and our advocacy can influence cultural and societal changes. When young leaders stand up for the rights of children, we break the silence around abuse, uplift survivors, and strengthen our communities. When we endorse programs like the Independent Child Protection Advisory Program, we help create real, lasting change for children and families across St. Lucia. Today's launch reminds us that when systems fall short, we have both the chance and the responsibility to create better ones. Girls of a Feather is doing exactly that, and I am proud to stand with them as we open a new chapter for child protection in our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That is Samira Charles, you for Gender Equality Ambassador. Now, I know earlier we made mention of our ICPA trainees. They have gone through, like Chelsea mentioned, rigorous training over a 2-month period. And we want to give you an opportunity to hear from them, to get some insight as to their experience for the training program. And as they look forward to being a part of ICPA throughout the communities, we want to hear from them. So we will hear testimonials from Ms. Andrea Thompson, followed by Ms. Stacey Lamontai.
Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. Okay, so my name is Andrea Thompson. I am one of the ICPA trainees. And just to give a little feedback on what the training was like and what I expect. So, as mentioned, my name is Andrea Thompson. I also hold an undergraduate degree in psychology. I am currently pursuing a master's degree in counseling psychology as well. My experience stems from working with children through in volunteer roles as well as the facilitation of a youth group. I'm deeply passionate about working with children and making a positive difference in their lives. This is what drew me to this role. I believe this initiative has the potential to make a positive impact in the lives of child survivors. This program was designed to empower, support, and guide vulnerable children and their families. I believe knowing that there are people dedicated to assisting in this way can be reassuring to many who may not know where to begin or how to help their children who have experienced abuse. As child protection advisors, we serve as a voice for vulnerable children and young people, standing with them every step of the way. Additionally, the training was incredibly impactful. I have gained a lot of valuable knowledge. I am especially grateful for the trauma-informed training, as it has not only enhanced my ability to serve effectively as an ICPA, but would also benefit my personal practice. Having undergone this training, I am better equipped to function as a child protection advisor and highly recommend the ICPA program to child survivors, as it provides the essential support and guidance they need to manage their traumatic experiences with professionals who are qualified to empower, support, and guide them. I also strongly recommend the ICPA training to anyone working with vulnerable populations. Beyond trauma-informed care, we learned how to assess risks and needs, recognize warning signs of trauma, and apply basic coping skills during client interactions. That's just a fraction of the topics we covered. We were also made aware of the processes of other agencies we will be collaborating with. Some of these agencies includes the Department of Human Services, VPT of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, the High Court, and the Family Court. Overall, the training has done an excellent job for equipping us for the role of an ICPA, and I look forward to working with the survivors referred to this program. This initiative holds great potential to transform the lives of child survivors by helping them navigate their traumatic experiences and acquire the help that they need.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to adopt the protocol that has already been established. I am Stacey Lamontime, and I am an entrepreneur and facility manager with a background rooted in hospitality, business management, and education. And during my tenure, I've had the privilege to work closely with many young people, and I've witnessed firsthand the incredible resilience of child survivors. But I've also seen the critical moments where they have become lost and overwhelmed by their own trauma. This is precisely why I was so interested in becoming an independent child protection advisor when presented with the opportunity by Girls of a Feather. The ICPA program provides an urgent and necessary response to the systematic gaps that exist in our current legal and social structures. The program was intensive and provided the framework for us to learn how to effectively empower and support the youth who are experiencing or have experienced significant trauma. The training was transformative because it moved just beyond theory. We didn't learn about only the legal requirements of safeguarding and confidentiality. We learned how to activate these protocols, efficiently connecting with vital resources that are currently available through organizations such as Human Services and the Vulnerable Persons Team. Most profoundly, the training provided the trauma-informed lens that I previously lacked. Before this program, I could emphasize with a survivor's distress. Now I understand the signs of trauma and how to structure my communication to be calming and non-triggering to victims, as well as provide the necessary support that they need to transcend their experiences. As a result of this initiative, I am empowered to act as an informed advocate, capable of translating legal, complex jargon and bureaucratic systems into clear, manageable actions for the child and their guardian. What I look forward to the most is leveraging this knowledge to help victims close the gap between first disclosure and a secure pathway towards recovery. I firmly believe that this program supports child survivors in 3 profound ways. By upholding the highest standards of confidentiality and ethical care, ICPAs establish immediate trust and a foundation for recovery to be built. We take the burden of bureaucracy off the shoulders of survivors, since the ICPA is the informed liaison who knows the pathway to protection, justice, and therapeutic care. We don't just refer. We equip the survivor and their family with information to ensure that they understand the processes, giving them back a sense of control that trauma often steals. I fully recommend the ICPA training to any professional interested in child advocacy because it is the gold standard for trauma-informed practice, fundamentally changing how you interact with vulnerability. And most importantly, I recommend the ICPA program for survivors and their families because it is a direct investment in their future. It provides a non-governmental, objective voice of support, ensuring that no child is ever lost between the organizational lines. It is an investment in their right to safety, justice, and healing. The Independent Child Protection Advisor is not just another title, it is a promise to be the trusted link, the informed advocate, and the dedicated ally for a survivor. I am proud to join the network of ICPAs and grateful to Girls of a Feather for this opportunity to provide informed support, ethical precision, and compassionate guidance to every young person referred to us. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to say thank you once more to our ICPA trainees, Miss Andrea Thompson and Miss Stacey Lamontine. Thank you so much for that insight into your experience so far, and we are happy that you're looking forward to really being a part of the process when it comes to the reach of ICPA in St. Lucia. And just to provide you with a bit more information as to the delivery of services through the ICPA program, it's to conduct risk, needs, and safety assessments to evaluate each client situation, to provide emotional, practical support as to children and families, to offer referral assistance, to connect clients and with relevant agencies and services, and I want you to remember that, as well as deliver care, coordination, and to ensure consistent follow-up and case management with partners, and to support and prepare clients for engagement in the criminal justice process, both pre- and post-trial. So if you listen to some of the services that ICPA will be providing, the ICPA program will be provided, you will realize that stakeholder involvement is crucial when it comes to that program. So at this point, we would like to recognize as well as hear from one of our local partners, who is Ms. Jani Joseph, Director of the Department of Gender Affairs.
Thank you very much. And protocol having been established, good morning, everyone. And just to say, special good morning to Chelsea Foster and to her partners who have done this lovely thing. So happy World Children's Day to all children and to the child in each of our histories. Many hurt and unhealed children are hidden away in adult women and men who are forced to function as responsible, functional, and productive citizens of society. The acknowledgement of this fact makes today not only a significant moment for every child, but for every child who has ever been vulnerable, every adult who knows their individual and unique story and wishes that no other child ever has to have a similar story. It is therefore fitting that on a day when the world recognizes children and the issues that children face, that this independent child protection advisory program should be launched. Thank you, Ms. Chelsea Foster, and your team for playing your part in offering solutions in response to the gaps in services that you observe. In 2018, the Division of Gender Affairs launched a program called Part of the Solution campaign. And that campaign sought to help participants deconstruct the issue of gender-based violence and deconstructed, the actual problem became clearer and ways of tackling the various components of an otherwise very complex issue were easier to conceptualize. It was like discovering that the cupcake doesn't have to be eaten whole in one bite, that you can use a fork to eat it. And each piece could be eaten without the fear of choking. A few years later, the Spotlight Initiative, funded by the European Union, launched a regional campaign right here in St. Lucia called Play Your Part campaign. Girls of a Feather has over the years demonstrated how this is done by choosing their demographic, children, and strategically and systematically weaving their way through assessing the problem, identifying the gaps, and sourcing resources and partners to respond one step at a time. This program is just another step in that direction. In being part of the solution, Girls of a Feather is complementing the other parts that others already play. The government of St. Lucia has formalized a national interagency task force for GBV prevention and response, comprising representatives from the justice, policing, health, social, and education sectors. This task force is responsible for coordinating GBV services in St. Lucia, particularly to increase access to justice and strengthen prevention for gender-based violence. This initiative now mirrors the thinking of our national response with specific focus on children. As a signatory to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the government of St. Lucia has a duty to respect, protect, and fulfill the rights of every child. Thank you, Girls of a Feather, for being a partner in fulfilling this duty. Thank you for demonstrating that civil society is a formidable partner in national development. The Division of Gender Affairs pledges its continued support to your organization, and particularly this initiative within the new center that you're very much aware of to be launched in the coming months, to place in one center health, social, policing, and justice services for gender-based violence. We wish you every success in the implementation of this program. Thank you to the European Union for this partnership. The Spotlight Initiative, sponsored by the EU, has supported the very frameworks that underlie this work. Partnerships such as these are what drive development. Well done, Girls of a Feather. Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Joseph, for those remarks, and thank you so much for being here with us as well today. At this point, we would like to, of course, thank you, our in-house audience, as well as the audience via Zoom, for joining us. And to do that in the best possible way, I would like to invite ICPA Supervisor, Ms. Quintina Angelo, who's the, again, ICPA Supervisor, and she will be delivering the vote of thanks.
pleasant good morning to everybody again. It is a privilege to deliver today's vote of thanks as we officially launch the Independent Child Protection Advisor Program. This launch marks an important milestone in St. Lucia, and I am grateful to be part of this moment and to acknowledge the individuals and partners who helped make it possible. First, I would like to express a heartfelt gratitude to the benefactors whose support helped bring this program to life. Your unwavering commitment to protecting children have not gone unnoticed, and it will go a long way in advancing this important cause. I would also like to extend sincere thanks to all of our facilitators who contributed their time, expertise, and guidance throughout the training process. These include Lime Culture, Amy Hardy, Becky York, Maria Putz, High Court Master, Mr. Mara Foster, Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist, Dr. Daniel Samuel, Crown Counsel with the Crown Prosecution Service, Mr. Peter Moyston, Family Court Intake Counselor, Ms. Shaini Gravelis, the Vulnerable Persons Team represented by Acting Inspector Sisley Baptist, the Department of Human Services represented by Ms. Blanda Lancelot, Ms. Fernanda Henry, the Director of St. Lucia Forensic Services, and Ms. Charmaine Daniel, Social Worker at the Millennium Heights Medical Complex. Your collective engagement equipped the ICPA trainees with valuable knowledge and practical guidance for this role. A special acknowledgement goes to the European Union, who made the program a reality. Your investment demonstrates a strong commitment to empowering communities and protecting vulnerable children. We also extend thanks to the steering committee, whose guidance and leadership supported the development of the program from its earliest stages. To the trainees, Andrea Thompson, Philippa Hunt, Natalia Shalry, Stacy Lamontine, Barbara Monrose, and Ornan Gervais, thank you for your enthusiasm and willingness to embark on this important journey. The program is a lot stronger because of your dedication. And finally, to all stakeholders who participated in our consultations, thank you for sharing your experiences and insights, which help shape a program that is responsive and rooted in realities of child protection in St. Lucia. On behalf of the Girls of a Feather and the entire ICPA team, thank you for all your presence, your support, your partnership. Your contribution truly makes a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Angelo. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank you so much for being here with us. If, again, you have any questions, any queries on ICPA, you would like to find out more information, feel free to send an email to icpa.slu@gmail.com, or you can give them a call at 519-7263, and you would be, of course, finished with that information, especially if you would like to contribute to the program in one way or the other. Of course, your contributions would, of course, be appreciated. Thank you so much for being here with us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Humadi Mark. It was a pleasure to guide you through today's discussion. And once again, I would love to wish you a happy World Children's Day.